This is Charlie Kao with TravelMole TV in Madrid at the World Travel and Tourism Council Summit with Darrell Wade, who's the CEO of Peak Adventure Travel, a holding company that comprises some of the premier adventure travel companies around the world, and many of whom started back in the 70s and 80s.
You're making me feel old, Charlie.
Well, they include Exodus, Trek America, Intrepid, which you founded, co-founded, and I see on your website you carry or you take care of 350,000 clients every year from about 50 markets and have a turnover of in excess of $400 million, regardless whether that's Australian or US.
Yeah, near enough. They used to be the same.
Since the creation of Peak, about 4 years, in April of 2011, with TUI Travel PLC as one of the shareholders, what milestones have been met in its first 4 years? And what's ahead for the next 4 years?
Oh, that's a deep question to get thrown at. I think, to be honest, some of the milestones have been relatively internal and not terribly visible to the external. So, we've put an awful lot of effort and energy in getting our system sorted or having a unified IT platform across the entire group, rather than having 75 different individual legal entities, which we still have. They're all now tied into common IT platforms, HR platforms, finance platforms, and so forth. And all that's taken an enormous amount of work. So not visible to
the integration of how many companies?
79 different legal entities in 35 different countries. Right. So yeah, it's been a huge piece of work for sure.
And you left the culture alone, and for the most part, in each one of these companies?
For the most part. In some cases, we had businesses that were underperforming, and so we've tried to turn those around, or in some cases, merge them in with other entities. But generally speaking, a brand or a company does have its own culture, and you want to try and preserve that culture as much as you can. It's what the real essence of the company is, and that goes right through to the people at the front line and the products you're delivering, right through into the clients themselves and what they experience. So we see that's important.
There's the category of underperforming bottom line companies, and then there's a category of underperforming companies that have greater potential and they're not being tapped.
Yep.
How about those?
Yeah.
Did you find some of those?
Yeah, all of the above, really. Yeah. And so some of the companies.
Name some brands that are performing better because they always had the potential. The market has grown.
In the UK, a business called Trek America, which is an 18 to 35s brand taking clients to America, that's performing significantly better than it was 4 years ago, for instance. On the flip side, a company in Canada called Adventure was performing very poorly, and in fact we've integrated that into Intrepid now, so that for all intents and purposes doesn't exist anymore.
Well, they were a GSA, no?
They're a GSA, that's right.
More than an operating company.
And I think that's true, and I think that role of the GSA is
John
really
Wells.
Pretty redundant. Oh, we go back a long time, don't we, Charlie? Well done. So yeah, that's history, I'm afraid.
And then I see some other brands I'm not familiar with. They seem to be either niche by the country they serve or the product. I mean, you have bicycling.
Or maybe new. So for instance, like 3 years ago, a bit more, 4 years ago, we started a company called Urban Adventures, which does experiential day tours now in 120 cities around the world. And that's been a phenomenal success. We'll carry, I think, 130,000 people on these day tours. And it didn't exist 4 years ago. So,
day tours?
Yeah, so it's, in fact, not even a day. It could be 2 hours to 5 hours.
And what do they do?
And the whole idea is to have an urban adventure, as the name says, and they go in under a city and experience that city in a fairly gritty, earthy, realistic kind of way. And it's been a phenomenal success. It's a little bit like what we do with Intrepid in a longer 2-week context. This we kind of pack it down and get a very, very local bird's eye view of a town. So it could be big metropolises, the New Yorks, Londons, etc., or it could be tiny little places like Luang Prabang or lost my phone, or wherever, tiny little towns, right through Europe, North America, Asia, everywhere.
And the old standard products, Intrepid, Exodus.
Yep.
What kind of tweaking? How have that evolved over the
Look, they're
last 5 years?
I think it's fair to say they're far more organic in terms of Exodus has got a well-established, long, very good management team, and they just continually refine what they do, and they've actually had a very good 4 years' time. They're significantly bigger in terms of sales, but also more profitable than they were 4 or 5 years ago. Intrepid, I think, is currently having the best financial year in terms of sales in particular that it's ever had in its history. We've had record months in January, February and March. So, like, as in big record months, 20, 25, 30% up.
I remember, I believe Exodus was telling me 10 years ago, even at that time, high percentage of the bookings were through internet, high percentage repeat.
Yep. Still true.
Upmarket?
I wouldn't say upmarket. No, kind of. It's kind of a 3.5 star product.
I see.
But yes, it's got a very strong direct sell component to it. Exodus
and repeat,
and very high repeat, very high indeed. Yep.
Where do you see all of this, the Peak Group, being 5 years from now?
That's a good question. In this industry, we never really know about 5 years down the track. You know, we obviously do 5 year strategic planning, and that's refreshed every year, and so we kind of have figures in our heads and whatnot. But on the other hand, there's always that opportunistic element to it as well, and that you can't always plan for the future because ideas come along and.
You were looking into lodging. You were looking into investing in lodging facilities.
Yeah, we have been.
You have been. So that's new.
It's new, but we've parked that, and so we had a fairly good look at that about this time last year. Actually, it's probably when we were talking last year, and we just felt like we couldn't really make a return on investment in that space, and so we've moved away from that space. Not impossible to return to it, but right now we can't see how we can make it work. So rather, we're working in sometimes with NGOs, but in local countries, and in some cases international aid organisations to help create a product that we will fill. So we're still kind of vaguely encouraging what we were thinking about 12 months ago, but in a very different context, more a creating shared value methodology.
So the integrating the companies, the back office, the corporate, some of the marketing backup, tweaking the knowledge base, how to be more social and all this other stuff. Where does travel agencies fall in all of this?
Interestingly enough, for us, we haven't seen a dramatic change in this one way or another. You know, everyone tells you, oh, it'll go direct, and travel agents there on a hiding to nothing. We're not seeing that at all. And so it varies a lot business to business, and so some businesses like Exodus have a very high direct sell component. Other businesses like Intrepid have about a 50-50 split, and that 50-50 split between direct and industry has been exactly the same for about 10 years. And in fact, this year it's edging up again towards industry. It's not by design, to be honest. We're kind of agnostic on it. We don't really care. You know, we just want to grow the business, and if the industry can help us grow the business, that's great.
And it's more market, right? I imagine the Asia Pacific Oceanic market is more B2B, let's say,
yes,
than say USA.
Yes, very true.
And Europe somewhere in between?
No, Europe is more B2B as well.
It's more B2B.
UK is a bit more direct focused, but still strong industry. And Canada is more like that oceanic model where it's a mix of a fair bit of B2B.
You know, several decades back, there was elder hostels. And there was then Saga holidays.
How old are you, Charlie?
And you know, which was not recession proof. But that product, to some extent, you may not. It's not adventure. But it's active.
Yeah, that's true. And look, a lot of what we do isn't really adventurous. That's the point. And you know,
you're not climbing mountains.
Some of the trips do, but a lot of the trips don't. And so, you know, the reality is anyone in this room could probably do 80% of the product we operate. So it's not that adventurous. But on the other hand, it is adventurous to the degree that it's not a package holiday, it's not a cruise ship holiday, it's not a coach holiday, it's getting out there and getting into a destination. So I guess mentally you've still got to be up for a little bit of a challenge, if you like, if not a physical
I guess my
one.
question really is, does the Saga Holidays Elder Hostel model of activities for people a bit more senior, usually. Does that fit within the peak type of product?
Yeah, it does. In fact, increasingly, I've got to say, the Exodus clientele, you were saying before, it's a very high repeat factor, and it is probably 10 or 15 years older than it was 15, 20 years ago. So, you know, the average client on an Exodus trip now is actually close to 50 years old. So perhaps not quite at the Saga end, and we wouldn't have anything quite at the Saga end, but there's no question that the market goes into that space.
Darrell, it's a pleasure, and look forward that next year you'll be telling me that you found that new sweet pot, you and your team.
I hope so. If not next year, it'll be in 10 years' time, because you'll still be doing this, Charlie.
Take care.
Thank you.